Courthouse Foundation meeting. First item on the agenda is A, the election of directors. Michelle, do you have any information for us on the process?
In the past, it's just been a motion to elect the ex officio members as board of directors.
Make a motion to elect ex officio members as board of directors.
I'll second the motion by trustee Radig. We are trustees, correct?
There's a president and a vice president. A secretary is usually not the board member. Originally, I believe it was Patty Putman who did a lot of grant work back in the day. And then after she was no longer in that position, it became Auditor Gill.
Okay, well, first all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Passes 3-0.
Aye.
4-0. Welcome,
Aye. Yep.
Mr. Bittinger.
Thank you.
I will move to elect Matthew Ong as president of the board of directors.
Second.
Motion by Radig, second by Taylor. Any discussion on electing myself two-time president?
I think it's more than two-time.
Oh, really?
It's almost been perpetual.
As perpetual president. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed say nay. Passes 4-0. Second, item C, continue with item B is the election of the vice president. That is currently Mr. Taylor.
I move to re-elect Jeremy Taylor as the vice president.
Second, motion by Radig. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed say nay. Passes 4-0. Next is a motion required to combine the offices of secretary and treasurer and to appoint the county auditor or his designee, should it say, to the combined position.
I will move that.
I'll second the motion by Radig. Hearing no discussion. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed say nay. Passes 4-0. We've completed the election of officers. Item C is to approve the minutes of the March 14th meeting we have in front of us. Any questions or corrections on these?
I will move the minutes.
I'll second the motion by Radig. Mr. Taylor.
Sorry, just looking. So it says present were Bittinger, Nelson, Radig, and Ong, and then I read election of directors, motion by Ong, second by Taylor. And I don't remember, it's been so long since I've been there, but if I seconded, I think I would have been present. So I didn't know if we just want to amend. I mean, not a big deal.
Yeah.
It may have been one of those where you came in 1 minute late
Yeah.
and showed not present at the time of roll. So we would have.
We have another motion here. So should we add Taylor to the present list then?
I think that would make sense.
If you believe he was in attendance, do you recall if Taylor was in attendance last year?
I'm-
Might have been what Keith said. Might have come in late.
I'll defer to the transcriber of the minutes, which was you guys.
I think we should amend it to say that he was present.
Yes, we can do that.
Okay, so the motion second is with the correction. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed say nay. Passes 4-0. Moving on to the next report is item D, receive the February 29th financial report. Who's going to present that?
So you do have in your packets is the financial report showing there was no activity during fiscal year '23, and the ending balance remains $12,107.58.
Let the minutes reflect that Mark Nelson.
Move to receive the financial report.
Second the motion by Radig. So the funds have essentially been unchanged since July of 2019. Correct? Okay. We are on receipt of financial report, which is that.
That is correct.
Any questions on the financial report? I'll move to receive.
Second.
Second by Taylor. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed say nay. Passes 5-0. Next is item E. This is old business. This is listed to apply for retroactive reinstatement of nonprofit status. Whoever's going to, Mr. Gill, could you explain what happened here? I see in the minutes from last year, we approved the same.
Right,
So,
but when we went to start looking through it, it got very complicated quickly. 50, we've found some information back when Gene Jessen was here, but it said that there was added some confusion. It said you didn't have to file unless there were 25,000, but then at some point it told us that it was lapsed. Is that right, Michelle? Is that
Yes, there are two reports that have to be filed. The first is every other year with the state, which has been done on a regular basis. So that is up to date as of the current time, where we input who all of the officers are. The second is the 990, which is IRS form, which in the past it did not have to be reported for anything unless it was over $25,000, and I believe that has changed to $50,000. So that has not been done since June of 2018, and so the tax ID has been inactivated due to not submitting this 990 form. So it needs to be reactivated, or a new one needs to be created.
so? Bottom line, what we're recommending is that if you want to continue with the 501c3, is to have somebody like Williams and Company sort it out to get it back into.
Mr. Taylor.
So the only thing I think in the mix that we need to consider is the longevity of this beyond today's meeting, whether or not it makes sense to even continue this. And I just base that on the previous discussions that we've had of, now that we have a new fund, the Woodbury County Long-Term Capital Improvement Project Fund, that we know that people can make tax-deductible donations to, whether it makes sense to continue a fund that we've seen no change over the last 4 years on, so.
Are we sure that we can make, the tax deductible donations can be made to that aforementioned fund?
If the 501c3 is in existence, then that's how they make charitable donations that are deductible. And so I asked, I did send an email to the treasurer to ask if, what the track record had been previously for donations, and I didn't receive anything back as far as the 12,000 that is in there now, or anything that was in there before. So I doubt if anybody's going to be much of an issue with the IRS disallowing somebody's contribution that they made during that period of time that we lapsed. We lapsed because the confusion was, it said we thought we didn't have to file. Apparently there's some sort of confusion there that has to be done, so that's why I want to hand it off to somebody who knows what they're doing with the IRS to figure out, and you folks have to decide whether or not you want to keep the foundation in existence, because that's the next thing on the agenda.
So currently, is there a 501c3? Dennis is saying no for the county side?
To
No.
speak on that, any charitable contribution to a government unit is deductible under section 170C1 of the Internal Revenue Code if it's made for a public purpose. So donations to the county would be considered tax deductible under tax code.
Correct?
Yes, I know that has been said before, but you folks always, because folks that are considering donations want to be able to say it was to a 501c3.
So even though it's not a 501c3 by Iowa code, it's tax deductible,
Right,
is what we're saying?
yep.
Okay. Well, that was my biggest concern is that they would be tax deductible.
Right.
So since we know they can be, I guess what is the reason to keep this open if it hasn't had movement in 5 years?
I was going to wait till we get to the next agenda item to talk about that. but,
Okay. Then
But
for this reinstatement, then what is there a cost to this?
if we're going to engage Williams and Company to straighten it out, there would be.
It'd probably be almost as much money that's in there.
That's what I'm wondering, is what the cost would be.
Well, why would you engage them if you aren't gonna apply for a 501c3 in the first place?
Right.
Yeah.
You don't need them.
Could we table this item potentially until we take up the next one? Because it seems like,
That'd be a swell idea.
so I would
Yeah.
move to table this item until we discuss the next.
Second motion by Taylor. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed say nay. Passes 5-0. Moving on to new business, we have two things listed here in our agenda. First is the need to update the articles of incorporation and determine the use of funds on hand. So I'd like to discuss one first.
Right. And that's, wanted to discuss that as I got a call from Jim Jung. I believe he sent you an email too, Mr. Ong. And he was concerned, he was confused between the Courthouse Foundation and apparently an advisory group that was out there before. And he's concerned, that he obviously wants to continue with that. And if you're going to have those bylaws updated, he was concerned about getting just citizen input and placed on that board. So if you're going to redo that, I guess you're making a determination if you want to, what kind of advice you want to get from folks that want to be involved with courthouse preservation.
I did receive contact from Mr. Jung. I said if he has any thoughts, I could pass them on at the meeting. He said he doesn't have any thoughts.
But he did call me just a little bit ago,
Okay.
and that's what I was relating to you, is that he thinks it should continue, and it thinks it should have some citizens involved with it.
The advisory committee is separate from the foundation, correct?
And apparently that was very loosely put together. I don't know anything about that.
Well, from what I can tell, the advisory courthouse committee for historical preservation, something like that. An advisory committee was active during the centennial. After the centennial in 2018, it ceased to really meet or give advice. I don't think they've had published meetings in 2021, 22, 23, and we did not, at this point, recreate that committee for this year, so they are inactive.
We did have one interaction with them when we tried to do something within the auditor's office. Mr. Jung, as being part of that committee, talked to Kenny Schmitz, and they changed whatever we were going to do, right?
Well, we welcome his involvement in any part of these open discussions. But as to the advisory committee, that's a separate item that the board hasn't reauthorized because it hasn't made recommendation on the use of these funds for 5 years or had any sort of public meetings.
And if you wanted to update those, because the bylaws have, by just a position that no longer exists in the county, was one of the directors along with the board members.
Yep.
It would seem to me to make some sort of sense that, and I don't think the Courthouse Foundation nor tied to this advisory committee, I think this should sunset. But maybe a group that Kenny can call upon, because I know when we worked the centennial They were of help in terms of talking with Steve King, not the former congressman, but the National Landmark, and the Historic Preservation Office. And so it would seem like on an ad hoc basis to be able to get some of those folks together. If there was going to be a larger capital improvement project, might make some sense. But I don't know that it should be tied to this because I think if I'm seeing the direction that the board is going is that this is sunsetting in lieu of this capital improvement. And so maybe to, just kind of give Kenny the direction that this is a list of people who would like to be involved and they could meet. If you're gonna do, this major renovation, I think we do want their expertise. I think it's been invaluable. So those are just some thoughts.
Well, I've been very clear in the open session when we approved committee assignments and the board supported that if the advisory committee had reason to meet, we would reauthorize them and recreate them at that time. So when there is a need, we can cross that bridge when we come to it. But as you said, that can be tied to actions by Building Services Department or any sort of other board action through this new courthouse maintenance fund.
Because, I had a call today from a citizen that was not Jim, but had been involved with the courthouse committee leading up to the bicentennial and was not going to be active going forward, but expressed that, if there are other people that would like to get involved like he did for the centennial, that we would explore options that people could do that.
Yeah.
So,
And that's been open, so all these years, we've been looking at this $12,000 and the advisory committee has certainly been aware of it since they received reports on it, that it's just been sitting there, losing purchasing power, sitting idle. So we're going to do something with it, essentially. And should we determine the use of funds before the need to update the articles, do you think?
The use of the funds would be if you're going to expend them some way to update the articles or engage Williams and Company to check out how to re-implement the 501c3. So, if you just want to do away with it, we're probably going to have to get some advice on how to dissolve everything.
So the nonprofit status has lapsed for at least a year.
Yes.
Yes, more than a year.
The tax ID has lapsed for at least a year.
Tax ID has been longer than a year. Nonprofit status with the state is up to date.
Okay, the nonprofit status is up to date. We're talking about,
With the state of Iowa.
Yes, with the state of Iowa.
okay,
It's the tax ID that has lapsed.
okay. Well, we've been operating, as we can see in front of us, off of these old 1993 articles this entire time, so taking no further action on them. We can see if there's anything technically we need to do, but obviously we've been operating. We got through a centennial and on the other side of a centennial without updating the articles, so I'm not sure if there's reason to update them if we're not going to continue this entity.
Then I think you would do a motion to dissolve and see what it takes to do that. If that's where the board wants to go.
So
do away
again,
with it.
for process, should we decide on the use of funds first then?
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
So I believe it would make sense. Sorry. So I believe it would make sense, given our previous discussions, to move to transfer the funds within the Courthouse Foundation to the Woodbury County Long-Term Capital Improvement Project Fund and go from there.
Why don't you say less any required fees to dissolve the Courthouse Foundation?
That's what I intended.
That's what you meant. I'll second that. Motion by Taylor. Any considerations on that motion from the auditor's office? That makes sense?
Yes, that makes sense.
Okay. Well, aside from a couple phone calls, we don't have anyone in the audience to speak to this. It's been pretty quiet, foundation. But it will continue its work through, fund guided by the building services director. And if we need to reestablish a advisory committee, we certainly will. Any other comments or questions on the motion regarding the use of funds? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Passes 5-0. Then, on the item to determine the need to update articles of incorporation, should there be a motion to do nothing or dissolve?
No, I would do a motion to dissolve.
Okay.
I will move to dissolve.
Second.
Motion by Raddick, second by Taylor to dissolve the Courthouse Foundation. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed say nay. Passes 5-0. This means that the postponed item under old business for retroactive reinstatement of nonprofit status is no longer applicable, and we will move on from that. Before we adjourn, is there any other business before this foundation?
I don't believe so.
Any updates on cost to dissolve? Will simply be kept informed of the balance, and the actual transfer will be made at such time you deem appropriate, Dennis?
We'll make it this month.
Okay,
March.
this month? Okay. Anything else for the good of the cause? All right, thank you, Mr. Bittinger, for joining us. We'll recess until 4:30.